monitoring programs, and the pools in New Plymouth. We had the majority of them were high with 2 goods. Happy to take any questions if you've got any.
You must be really pleased with the highs and the goods and the high level of compliance.
Yes, really good. It's a lot of work from our team, my teams, and Jared's teams. So yeah, it's really good to see.
But it's well and truly paying dividends, isn't it?
Yeah, holding them account to their consent conditions. Having good relationships with them so that they're happy to put their hand up if there's small things that go wrong and be quite transparent. It's quite good.
Donna.
So just 2 things. One, the aquatic centre, I take it there's been more testing since then.
Yeah, I mean, we're monitoring them all the time. You saw that they'd had some issues with paint coming out when they were cleaning the pools. So that wasn't ideal. Got picked up on the reef. But since then, they've now got some new screens that they put in their backwash facility. So we'll see the last test we did, we still picked up a little bit, but I'm hoping that these new screens will just there won't be any more from now on. So we'll monitor that this year, obviously.
So what about the oil and grease though?
Yeah, that was
testing since then.
Yeah, that was it was purely related to a flocculant that they'd used. So, and it had gone in just before, like about 8 hours before we got there. So we got a please explain, the usual thing, and they came back and said, oh, it must be to do with that. So they looked at their processes. I don't think they'll be using it again. So yeah, it's just a fortunate chemical choice.
And the other one was just at Melandra Downs. Is there any sign of improvement since they upgraded the plan? Like, are they carrying out their plan?
Yeah, it's I mean, they did a bit of planting out there, and they didn't fully follow the instructions of when they should be planting the spinifex, I think it is. So it didn't catch as quickly as we hoped it would. But yeah, they're pretty. It's going pretty well. We're seeing improvements with the dunes. The trouble is, it's a real high energy coastline, so the cliffs are eroding really quickly, so they can become quite non-compliant with their conditions to stay away from the cliffs. So they're trying to stay away even further than our consent conditions. So it's a tricky spot for them. Yeah, it's a tricky spot.
So with that, Madam Chairman, do our consent conditions need to be sort of more tolerant?
Ooh, don't like that, Don.
Well, obviously they're doing their best they can, but
yes.
but they're still struggling to comply. So
yeah.
Are our conditions too stringent to make them?
I mean, I don't
encourage them to do a good job.
Yeah, I hope not, because they are still good. They're still performing well, and I mean the conditions are there.
No one likes failing.
No, I know. None of us do. None of us do. But they've still got to keep on their game. They have had some issues at the site historically, so I'm always watching them.
So you're happy with where we're at?
Yeah, I am, because if you've probably looked at the aerial photos of that area and how problematic the movement of the dunes are in that area, particularly with them moving towards Partia. So it's a really important scheme to be getting control of that issue. So yeah, we're pretty pleased we've seen improvements there over the years.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
New subject, Madam Chairman. The land farms, I see they are progressing well. They still have a place, and there's still room for more waste to go in there.
Yeah. We they varied one of them. I can't remember which one of the two. They varied their conditions to enable them to respread over existing to give themselves more room. So what we do in that situation is we tested the soil to see where the conditions where they'd reached in terms of, because they're bioremediating sites. So we basically monitor the breakdown of the hydrocarbons. It gets broken down by the microbes and the sun. So we monitor that. When it reached those surrender criteria, it then goes back from being industrial to agricultural. So just before they applied for this condition, we tested that particular patch, and it already met those surrender criteria. So we consented to allow them to sort of have another go. We've done that for other land farms as well. Yeah. So yeah, they both took quite a lot of waste this year. That's at 5,000 cube, I think.
One might hope that there might be more to come.
Yes, yeah.
More drilling.
Exactly.
Anybody else for any more? If not, can I have someone move that the 8 compliance monitoring reports be received and note the recommendations contained therein? Charlotte moves, Dion second. All in favour?
Aye.
And we're moving now to item number 6. And we've got Leah speaking to the resource consents under delegated authority. And your shoes are quite nice too.
Not as fancy.
Not as fancy as Dorothy in the corner, I agree.
Morena koutou. At the end of October, we have 337 applications in progress. 263 of these are replacements. Between July and October, we issued 139 consents, which is double what we did last year. So there's a lot of mahi from the team, and a big shout out to them. Between 19th of September and 1st of November, we issued 28 discharge permits. 10 of these were new, 15 land use consents, 11 of which were new, 7 water permits, 5 were new, and 1 publicly notified consent for the MPDC structure, bridge and revetment on the coast, Weld Road. Of note in the report, we had 2 subdivision consents granted. These were large scale, all good properties, which was 5 consents, which was to create a stormwater wetland system within an inland natural wetland at Kelly Street, Inglewood, and all the associated activities. And then the CAD test, which was 8 consents out of Tapu Street, Waitara, 79 residential lots, 2 roads, 2 areas around the 2 streams flowing through the development were restored as reserves, also located adjacent to natural inland wetlands. So working through that with the team was really interesting, quite complex, and happy to take any questions.
Wow.
And if I can add, Madam Chair, the investment the council have made, the consent team, you can see there is paying dividends.
It certainly is. I mean, the volume of work that's been done is a credit to you and your team, Leah. Right, we'll start with Mike.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the all good properties, is there any hold up there at all, or is it fairly straightforward?
Anything to do with a natural inland wetland is not straightforward. It's complicated and takes months.
How long's it taken so far, Mike?
About 2 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of criteria for anything near a wetland that you have to consider: the vegetation, species, the hydrological connections, all different types of things. And sometimes it can take a year just to understand that before you can even grant the consent. So, yeah.
So is it progress there, or is it communication?
It's the NES for freshwater. The requirements that are stipulated within that are convoluted.
And
So that's triggered an addition of consents that we didn't
Sorry, I
have
can't
in the
hear.
past.
To you, Madam Chair, it depends what the current coalition government are going to do with the freshwater package.
Okay.
What direction they may take that.
Which could be mid next year.
Yeah, there's likely some changes coming, but we're not sure what they are yet.
Thank you.
Don.
Through you, Madam Chair, you were saying there's twice as many applications as last year. Is that because they're all falling due now, or is it because things are changing somewhere, or what's?
We have had an influx of new applications. At the end of the year, people just like to get them before Christmas. Like, yes, it's done. It's with the council. But a lot of the consents that we granted were also replacement consents, so that's actually just working through the backlog.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily double the amount, but there was quite a few, and there's still quite a few coming in. Yeah.
And it's because they were just falling due at this time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone for any more? Charlotte.
Just on page 57, I see we've added a new section 14, fast track consents issued by the expert consenting panel. Any communication from government on anything in Taranaki they might be progressing, or when we expect that we might get a signal if they are progressing something here?
So they've put out an appendix that shows the ones that they have included in the new fast track legislation, which is yet to be gazetted or given royal assent. But once that comes out, and there's some initiation in there that we might be able to cost recover. However, it's not definitive. And a lot of what the work that you need to do has to be before the consent actually gets even submitted to the EPA. Once it's with the EPA, the pressure on them and the pressure on us at the time frame means it's really, really difficult.
to give good quality advice, and we're encouraging pre-app. The problem with pre-app, even under the new legislation, there's no ability to cost recover. But I was on a panel for that, and we put through our submission areas and asked for more clarification around that, because to get good consenting outcomes and environmental outcomes, you need to engage with the council. But at the moment, sometimes you get like 5 days and they might send it at 4 o'clock on the first day. So you've literally got 4 days to gather everybody in the council to give comment. But it's also the panel has those same time restrictions. So we've got one of those that have now reached out to us for a subdivision pre-app, but at the moment there's still no ability to cost recover. So you're kind of weighing up how much time do you spend on, but you want to get good outcomes at the end of it.
Yeah, and I guess they've got a very long list of projects they can't all do at once, so we don't know which ones.
So, Madam Chair, there's 4.
Yeah.
And one is the marine mining.
Yeah.
Marine mining, and that I think 3 of them from memory are land use consents around in different parts of the region.
Yes, subdivision.
Subdivision.
Stratford Park. Solar farms.
Madam Chair, the mining one though is outside of our jurisdiction anyway, isn't it? So will we be asked?
I haven't had any communication from them at all, so I doubt they will ask for input from us. I don't think they had in the past, did they?
So through you, Madam Chair, previously we have been involved, because members will recall the discharge arises in the EPA's territory, but the impacts are in our territory. So they have in the past connected us in with setting consent conditions and so on. So who knows what's going to happen.
Perhaps another quick question then, as far as the EPA is concerned, if they set conditions, do they have the capacity to monitor?
Good question. They would have to probably bring that capacity in, or they may rely on us if that consent was successful. So.
Anyone for any more? Did you have your hand up, Don?
No, I think I've got that. So thank you.
Right, can I have someone move that we receive the schedule of resource consents?
Madam Chair.
Thank you. And a seconder, Neil? All in favour?
All right.
Thank you. And incidents and compliance, Paul.
So members, you'll note that we've brought different members of the compliance team to present the agenda. And this is the third member of the team, Jared, Brian and Paul. So welcome, Paul.
Kia ora, thank you all.
He's our compliance
Does that mean
team
we're wearing
leader.
them out?
No, we're still here. So how I fit in, so I'm the team lead, manage the day-to-day runnings of the team. Jared's compliance manager, obviously, and Brian's prosecutions. Thank you. How do my shoes look?
Reasonably
Well done, well done.
They do so much better with a bow on.
Equality.
Right, so I'm speaking to the period 20 September through to 31st of October 2024. We've got the report in front of you. There are incidents, there are 48 incidents reported. 20 of the incidents were found to be compliant, 20 were found to be non-compliant. 8 of the incidents reported relate to non-compliances from previous periods. There's updates on them. Compliance monitoring non-compliance, there are 33 compliance monitoring non-compliances reported. 28 of the compliance monitoring non-compliances reported are updates from previous periods, and 27 of the non-compliances are a result of the annual dairy inspection round. So our team's been busy doing we've finished the oxidation pond sampling. So every oxidation pond system discharging to water was sampled, tested. So, and I think the non-compliance rate is around 6% on those ponds. And so the team will be busy in the new year and summer doing to land irrigation. And historically, that number should drop off. It won't be as high as the sampling results. Just want to talk to one of the incidents.
Can I just ask, did you say 6%?
6%, yeah. Yeah, and that's sort of in line with previous years as well. No real spike or anything. On page page 69, the wastewater discharge, Rifle Road in Plymouth. So that was a self notification from MPDC after a high intensity rain event. And so their consent allows them to discharge in incidents like that. They can discharge to water. However, we followed up, the officer followed up with a 14-day letter just requesting that they, just to see that they complied with their consent conditions. And then, so initially that rain event, yes, that was all under the consent. However, in their reply, they mentioned that there was a couple of valves that one of their workers thought they were doing up, but they were actually left-hand threads. And they undid them, which then discharged to the Waikai River. So that was really two incidents in one. The first one was covered by the consent, but the second, with the mistake with those left-hand threads, there was unlawful discharge there, which resulted in that infringement notice being issued. And it also helped them. They've all the left-hand threads now they've labelled, so it's obvious to their team. So that should not happen again. That was just one I thought front foot, and just happy to answer any questions.
Say I'm impressed with how many of these non-compliances have been picked up by inspections, so by your staff. So it's impressive. Neil.
Just 2 or 3 questions, I guess. One is, of course, perhaps you probably covered, which is, it did seem like there's I know a large number of inspection issues with farmers.
Yes.
And all along the same lines of just not doing what they should be doing. And I know that it's time when you're doing the inspections. So maybe it's excessive, but it just seems very excessive to what we've perhaps been used to at this time. Or maybe they're just spread out more in the reports. So I'm not sure why that would be, but that was the case. Second point, just going to ask you about is, there was an example in here of cows in the stream.
Yes.
Now, in that case, I would have thought that we would have had perhaps an instant fine or something for it, because I really do think this is a serious matter.
Yeah.
And people have to be reminded that it is a serious matter. We certainly don't want that to happen. And so I'm anxious to see that enforcement be strict. And the third one, which was of interest to me, but amusing, is that what they describe as 5 drops of mercury inside a container. When you think of the days as children, when we went to the dentist, they gave us mercury, a little bottle to take away with it. And being a scientist, actually, I do know that it's not the mercury, but the vaporized mercury oxides that are really the dangerous thing. So it seemed like this is quite a big deal for what seems to be quite a small thing.
Yes. So firstly, so the dairy non-compliance. So are you referring to the discharge to like
yes, so there's all sorts of
water sampling.
examples of one thing or another.
We, like I say, we just made an effort to sample every one this time round. Previously, we've done just sections, but we're getting less and less ponds every year, obviously. As they come up for renewal, they go to that. And yeah, I can't really answer that. It's just we sample it and and they go off to the scientists. And
But he did say it was the same
Normal.
percentage.
Yeah, I know what was said, but I just think it's again one of these things that people, it's a good example of how people can slip back very easily. And that's why the idea of regular inspection, unfortunately, is necessary.
Yes.
Just answering chairs, just by way of a comment, at Sixth Form Science Lab, you ever tried picking up mercury after you dropped it on the ground? Runs in little balls everywhere. Remember those days?
The stock exclusion rules still haven't fully come into effect. But that one, was it the Turatura Road stock in the stream? I think that was like a dairy runoff. It wasn't dairy cattle. But yeah, they were found in there. And so we do assess I know a abatement notice was served, so then that to then close off that waterway, and that can be simply as a hot wire along there to exclude them. So whenever the cattle are in there, they put that line up, and then they've got the abatement notice. So any other further offence, they would be infringed. So we do assess each on its merit, or how many cattle within the area. Where the stream, you factor in a few things there.
Yes.
Did the landowner know they were in there?
No, I think they hadn't with that one, and that was the Harbour one.
So I guess it's the intent, isn't it?
The thing is, we do know that there are people going around taking pictures of these things.
Yes.
It does set a bad example. So if you park in the street in the wrong places, they're not sympathetic, they still give you a ticket. I think personally, I like to see this enforced fairly strictly. It's my view.
Yeah. And our officers do go and assess the stream, the wetland. They'll see if there's evidence of cow dung in the water, how long it's been there, how many cattle were there. It's still an abatement notice is still a good tool to exclude them, to make them do something, and then they've had if they had a warning, they know that they're going to get a $750 fine infringement after that. But there are times that we just go, right, well, that's obvious. You intentionally let them in there, not excluded them. So.
Through Madam Chair, over the years, we've tightened up on this, and so we're getting less and less of these type of situations as the community, the farming community, have responded. So.
I think what you're doing is that's right.
Yeah.
We used to have, sadly, many years ago, people with very high stocking rates on the edge of streams. And there was a stream in the middle of the paddock, so we were nowhere near anywhere near those sort of situations. Yeah. So we're making progress.
In relation to the mercury one, yeah, so that we never actually attended that. So that was fire and emergency attended that. So they didn't need our assistance with that, and it sounded a bit dangerous. But yeah, it's interesting to hear. I've never contemplated picking up mercury if it's on the ground.
It's not plutonium.
No.
Anybody else for questions? Richard.
I've just got one, Susan, and that's report around page 74, the road. Is that a new quarry?
Just let him catch up.
For the Mills Albert Rock Farm Limited. Is that a new quarry, or is that them commencing occupation of re-quarrying an existing quarry without a consent?
I'd have to look into that further, sorry. We've had a couple of places that are doing, wanting to do some rock plucking, they call it, and then sell that rock on, but it's like, well, no, it's quarrying.
Okay.
So that could be
rock plucking,
rather than
But they've been
quarrying.
doing that for a long time.
Yes.
Mills Albert.
Yeah.
how would rock plucking not be quarrying?
Is
Yeah, but
that-
So the incident is still under investigation, so it hasn't been.
You're harvesting the rocks from the area.
They're saying they're not digging, they're not creating silt and sediment, they're just plucking it. That's the argument. And we have had someone, I can't remember which one it is, whether it is that one, but there is one that's had some experts come to us and say, we're not quarrying, we want to pluck the rocks.
Yeah.
And we disagree with that. You are selling it for commercial gain. So if you are moving it on your property and using that rock yourself, it's different.
I need a good lawyer.
It's an oxymoron in itself. Donna.
I was just about the New Plymouth District Council. It just feels like we're hearing about their wastewater use all the time. What are we doing about it?
We know that they have those contingencies in their consents for when a rain event happens, but we are keeping a track of how many times it's happening. And if it's looking like there's just more and more, and then we would look at other options about what whether we
can put pressure on.
Yeah, we can put pressure on them to do. Yeah.
Perhaps it's a question for Mr. McLean, Madam Chair, which is that, there are accidents, things that happen, just act of God type stuff. Then there are things that are persistent problems that need repair. And in that circumstance, that's really the next resource consent. If you don't believe they've shall we say, need to repair this, then that's something which we would probably say, well, if it's an expensive or difficult project, we would manage it through, but they would be told pretty bluntly that they've got to do it at the next consent application.
Indeed.
Mike,
Just a conflict on page 82, Ravensdown, Chair.
anything else from anyone? If not, can I have someone move that we receive and note and adopt as appropriate the items in Paul's report? Neil, Anaru, all in favour?
Aye.
And moving now to public excluded. Do I have someone move that we move into public excluded, Mike? And
Second.
seconded by Richard. All in favour?
Aye.
And now we're considering the